the NBA's first superstar. George Mikan is a towering figure in the history of the sport. A three-time scoring champion, Mikan was the centerpiece of the league's first dynasty, leading the Minneapolis Lakers to 5 NBA titles in the late 1940s and early 50s.
The thing about George was he carried the NBA in the early years. You know, I think with the Minneapolis Lakers, they won 5 NBA championships. And of course, George was the man behind that. You remembered playing against him that he had a shot where he'd get the ball on pivot, drive, take a move to his left and shoot a shot off the backboard. But the thing about it was he led with his left elbow. And if your face was anywhere close to that, playing it, you got an elbow in the mouth and you spit out teeth for a few minutes. In his day, he was by far and away the #1 player in the NBA.
They called him the gentle giant, but he was not gentle on the floor. I mean, he played hard and he played aggressive, and he gave 100% every second he was out there.
George Mikan forces his way through the center, spins and shoots, and is fouled by Paul Timo.
The footage I remember of him was a tall, nice-looking man in glasses, winning the championship, kissing all his teammates. That just shows to me he was a great team player, he was a great friend, and he was a great leader, and he cared about being dominant. He embraced being dominant. That's why he's the father of dominance.
It was Mikan, the money player, who played with a broken arm in the World Series of 1949 against the Washington Capitals. And it was Mikan who became the greatest scoring machine in the history of the pro game.
The first time I saw Mikan, I went to the state tournament, and we saw Mikan play with his team. He was magnificent, almost 7 feet tall, and he was like a dancer. He was just perfect.
Mikan was really the substance of the league. I remember Madison Square Garden one night had George Mikan versus Knicks, not Knicks versus the Lakers.
So we all got dressed and ready to go on the floor. George got up and walked out the door. We all sat there. And he, what are you guys doing? We says, well, George, your name's up there. You go play them. So we joked around a lot.
Number 99, the first face of the NBA, set the standard of what was expected from the league's star player.
Well, he was the league's first big star. I mean, he was a centerpiece, the best player of the first half decade, and he was really a game changer. He was a center back when big men really weren't that coordinated, but he perfected the left and right-hand hook shot with the Mikan drill, where he would get the ball and constantly go left, right, and he became a terror in the post. And he also became a game changer because the NBA had to change rules all because of him. They had to widen the lane and the 3-second call, and they had to outlaw goaltending. And then in 1950-51, the Fort Wayne Pistons played the Lakers, and they played stall ball because they didn't want Mikan to get the ball and hurt them. The final score of that game was 19-18. Can you imagine that? And then 3 years later, the NBA instituted the 24-second clock, mainly because of George Mikan.
So many contributions to the game while he was alive and even after he passed on.
Well, he was the first commissioner of the ABA and invented the red, white, and blue ball. Now, the NBA didn't keep the red, white, and blue ball, but it's used as a money ball in the three-point contest during All-Star Weekend. And speaking of the three-point shot, he basically wanted the ABA to have the three-point line. It became very popular. And after the merger in 1976, the NBA added the three-point shot as a one-year experiment in 1979, decided to keep it. I think that was a pretty good idea.
Pretty great idea. A member of the inaugural Basketball Hall of Fame class in 1959, the first player to score over 10,000 points in the league.
My first basketball hero was a guy named George Mikan, who was the first really superstar in NBA basketball. And I went to see him play. And after the game, he came out of the locker room and walked over to me and talked to me for 20 minutes. And at the time, I was third string varsity. He would just talk to a young basketball player. I was 6'7" then. He ended the conversation by saying, you got to come and play for the Lakers. And I think there were less than a half a dozen kids in my graduating class that went to college. So at that time, we were not expected to go to college. But he expressed expectations of me. And outside of my family and my high school coach, there's nobody else that ever said anything like that to me. That we expect you to be successful.